So the website's called imakewatches.com, and there's a link to it straight from YouTube. But basically, I've done these project pages where they're geared towards like giving you a solution for answers to questions. If you see me working with microscopes or the index driver or whatever, these are projects to do your own thing, buy the stuff on AliExpress or from other vendors. I tried to keep it all as cheap as possible so that people can get started at low cost like me. And then there's this Gerald Gentis Omega prototype PDF, which was a personal project of mine. It's like 80 or 90 page PDF. And that's just a research project. But I think it's interesting. There's a whole playlist on the channel about that. I think it's super interesting. It's going to continue to be super interesting for the rest of my life. But so the website, and then there's a bunch of books you can download, which includes books about watchmaking, specific things like the Verge, quarter repeater. And then these tool catalogs, which help you just identify what tools are. So like when I started, I just didn't know what any of this stuff was. And if you see something in the flea market or whatever, you don't know what it is, you can go through this and find pictures and drawings and understand everything down to individual punches for staking sets. Very useful when you're getting started. And then there's some industry related stuff, and there's some religious related stuff, because Geneva is like the Reformation was a big part of Genevan history, Calvinism, and I found an old pocket watch, a quarter repeater actually, that has the name of a figure from the early 1800s named Emile Guers. Where's the Emile Guers and Charles Ryrie. So Charles Ryrie is like a modern figure, and Emile Guers, they're both, I think they're called dispensationalists or something, but it's just interesting reading about those things and putting places, because Emile Guers was in Geneva, and I think he was protesting. He was a Protestant, but he was like protesting the Protestantism, and because I have this quarter repeater that has his name engraved in it as if he's the watchmaker. I think he probably sold watches as a way of making money, because he didn't have gainful employment as a pastor, because his whole thing was he was a rebel and they were fighting with the established church. Anyway, that fascinates me. It's a fun. I love the whole thing of watches as an entry into history, which is the same thing with that gold Omega prototype. It's just like mind-blowing link to history. And then there's literal history, like this book I bought early on. I bought it from Cousins for $10 or something, but it's actually available as a PDF from a university in Switzerland. You don't have to check it out, just download it. But this was about the origins of Swatch Group and from a business context. And then Pierre-Yves Dons is a PhD in history, I think, but he's from the watchmaking part of Switzerland. He's one of the more well-known watch business historians. He teaches at the university in Tokyo now, and he's on the board of the Watch Library Foundation. Very interesting guy, and has written lots of books about history. Richard Watkins, I guess, is an American that has published a bunch of things from business history to, I think this is also Richard Watkins. He translated this thing about Verge, how to make a Verge watch. And that's because it was in French and it was written like 200 years ago or something. the shop page is broken. All these pages are broken into sections, and you can, once you're on the page, you can click on the page name again, and then you can jump down to different things. So like books, you have these, the Breguet book that I have that I bought at the thrift store, The Art of Breguet, and the George Daniels watchmaking book, which I bought at the bookstore at Watches and Wonders. But these are both on, one's Barnes and Noble, and the other is a Swiss website. I think you can also maybe find this on eBay. The watch repairers book manual I also have as a physical copy of that. These are things you have to buy, but the links are provided. And then there's a section about auctions where I have these. This is specific sellers on Ricardo, which is this watch website that it's like eBay of Switzerland. I buy a lot of stuff from. If you watch the channel, you know about that. So there's some links related to the project. These are things you can actually buy from me. If you don't want to make the project, you can buy it, finished versions. There's microscope parts, watch bands. Eventually I'll probably sell some watches here. Right now it's mostly links to other stores, vendors, including Bergeon and AliExpress, and some of the manufacturers of specifically things that are Swiss. Okay, so that's the website, and I'm going to continuously be updating that too. So I think it also has links back to all the, this is super important. I never talk about this to anybody on the channel, but basically on the website, you have links to every video that I've published, and they're served by Vimeo, which is a for pay service. So there's no ads. I don't get any demographics or whatever, like there's no financial benefit to me of having them here. But if you don't like ads, or if you want to download one and watch it on an airplane or on the public transit on the way to work or something, you can also download them, and that's all free. It has Vimeo's whatever video server is just as good as YouTube's. It does translation. It does transcript. I don't think it does foreign language translation right now, but it does the transcripts if you need to read transcripts. And then on YouTube, I delete videos after a period of time if they're non-performing or if I feel like they're too goofy. But I think on Vimeo, I've left everything there. So you can navigate back. They're in chronological order. And you can watch kind of some of the stupider things I did, like trying to make blindfolded. And then there's also links to Rumble and YouTube out here, and this links to YouTube, but Rumble is kind of the same thing as Vimeo. It's archive of everything. There is advertising and stuff on Rumble, but this is just kind of a backup for me. I think I only have 40 followers on Rumble. Rumble doesn't as a platform, it doesn't have video discovery and an algorithm the way that YouTube does. So in order to be known on Rumble, you kind of have to market your videos on another platform other than Rumble. Rumble doesn't search through and recommend, or not nearly as much or as well as YouTube does. But I wanted to have a secondary place where people who have ideological issues with YouTube or whatever can go. And also because YouTube has historically they have banned people and destroyed their entire library and history, like Chris Hedges, because he had something to do with Russia Today. When they sanctioned Russia, they just destroyed his entire YouTube history. So I think it's anybody who's YouTubing needs to have stuff on multiple platforms. Anyhow, did I want to get up and Yeah, so another thing, just as a random, just put this in a safe place for a second. $20. I think I'll only go for another 10 minutes. This is a little kit I carry around when I go to flea markets and stuff, so I can open things. I've got some loops, a little caliper. When I was at the flea market in Le Landeron, there was some laughter with the vendor that I bought the swatch from. You couldn't tell why he was laughing, but basically he liked this tool. I used it to measure a pocket watch key that he was selling to see if it was 1.2 millimeter inside the key side. And he was impressed by it and he was laughing. And then when I paid him, he kind of like stole it, stuck it in his pocket as a joke. And that's what we were laughing about. But it's a cool little tool, very accurate for measuring anything from crystals to lug distances, whatever. Okay, so the George Daniels watchmaking book, I think this is really interesting because there's a section in here which I have to be studying actually in the next 24 hours about making wheels and pinions and specifically the gear, the whole theory behind gears and the module distance and how to calculate what type of gear shape the specifications for gears that you're making. And I need to kind of figure all this out and put it together with the modern sellers, which are also on my website under, let's just do that quickly. Shop cutting tools. So this is in the video I just published today, a different one. But basically, Louis Bellette and Glore Custom makes whatever you order, and they say they'll do any from one to an infinite amount of products. But because they specifically say they'll do one, I suppose it's true. They probably just put the material in the machine, push a button, and it makes it. So they don't stock them, but I don't think you should be afraid to order from them just because they don't have things in stock. Louis Bellette says they have them in stock, but they could have the raw stock in stock and also just stick it in the machine and manufacture on demand. But in any case, this is what I need to figure out, because even though they have them, you have to know what you're asking for. And I have this book, and hopefully there's another book that subscribers have recommended that will hopefully help me figure all that out. And the Breguet book is interesting because there's a few versions of this, so be careful. If you see them on eBay, there's like kind of first edition is very valuable, and then second edition is not very valuable. So just be careful not to think you're buying something very valuable and overpay for a different edition. I bought this at my local Salvation Army thrift store for $80. Now, what's interesting about this was that this is all about Breguet. And this watch, I've seen this quoted in other auctions, this page of the book, because this one, 91ABC, this is the watch with the dial, the back of it and the front of it. This is a Verge Fusee. It's a quarter repeater. It was sold in 1792, and it says here, signed Breguet à Paris. This is a commercial movement signed and cased by Breguet and sold to the imprisoned Marie Antoinette. So I think that the story behind this is that somebody wanted a special watch made for Marie Antoinette. It may have been Marie Antoinette, but there's a whole story about this on Breguet's website. Breguet is now owned by the Swatch Group. But basically, Marie Antoinette was the queen and the wife of King Louis XVI of France. They were both guillotined at the end of the French Revolution, and they were kind of under house arrest before they were guillotined. And during that time, the story was that she wanted a breguet, and somebody commissioned to have one made, but it was going to take time. And so this says that Breguet cased a watch like this. It may be this one that he photographed for the book. I don't know, this very one. But anyway, this same watch was delivered to her in prison. And when I made my parody video about Breguet, this is the story that it kind of centers around. But the way I discovered this story was when I bought the Verge Fusées. In particular, I bought a Verge Fusée that says Breguet à Paris on it that looks very similar to this. I went through the book to try to figure out if it was legit or not. And I found this page that said, it suggested that Breguet purchased commercial movements and encased them for Marie Antoinette. So I don't know why he wouldn't do it for other customers. And therefore, the whole theory that all the kind of commercial movements that are signed by Breguet, I think I've never seen a resolution to the question of were they complete counterfeit trademark violations, or were they kind of like cheap watches that were sold by Breguet because Breguet had a big workshop and a big company and a lot of employees. They may have had a commercial line that was had their own name on it that they actually sold, but they weren't. It's kind of like what's a business that has a similar model? Well, high fashion, like you have your haute couture, and then you have your what do you call it? I'm not a fashion person, but I know a lot of designers have special stuff that sells for a lot, or you can't even get it, and then they have their retail line or whatever that sells at the shopping mall. Maybe Breguet did that. I don't know. Somebody probably knows. If you know, let me know. All right. See you later.